Hey gang, Scott here. I've got some information for you about ON1 NoNoise AI. It's a new product that ON1 released just today, and they were kind enough to give me a pre-release version of the software. I got it just a couple of days ago, so I've been playing around with it and getting to know the software, and I wanted to put together a video for you to give you kind of the spectrum of information. What is this new tool? How it might fit into your workflow? What are the sliders? See a few examples of it in action. What can we do with NoNoise AI? And also, how does it compare to other noise reduction products that we might own or are looking or considering adding to our toolkit? Speaking of toolkits, if you are thinking about adding anything from the ON1 product family to your photo workflow, check the show notes. I've got an offer code down there. It'll save you some money, give me a little bit of extra support, and I can keep coming back and doing videos like this. So with that, let's get started. So what is NoNoise AI all about? Well, it's about noise reduction, as you might have guessed. It's that push and pull that we always have with noise reduction, smoothing out the grain and the color noise splotchiness that we get when we are in low light or we're shooting at high ISO, but maintaining detail in the important elements in our photo. And so NoNoise AI does that for you. It does a whole lot of it automatically. So what is the package? Today, it is a standalone application, so it's a distinct and separate from ON1 Photo RAW. It also will work as a plugin to Lightroom, Photoshop, Capture One, and the other things that ON1 supports in their plugin ecosystem. If you're an ON1 Photo RAW user, reports from ON1 is that the functionality and feature set of NoNoise AI will be incorporated into the next iteration of Photo RAW. So assumedly, Photo RAW 2022 will have this capability. So if you can't wait for it, you're looking to get the NoNoise AI application as a standalone, and that's what I'm going to be showing you here today. It does work as a plugin to other things, so if you're a plugin workflow person, you're working from, let's say, Lightroom or Photoshop, you can snap NoNoise AI into your workflow. If you're a Photo RAW user and you may be like on the fence of do I want to get this product now, it'll really depend on your needs. Do you need high quality noise reduction right now, or can you wait until Photo RAW 2022? That's a choice you're going to have to make there. But what I want to go into now is showing you some examples and you see how this tool works. I'll show you how it's working standalone, and honestly, even for a like a plugin workflow, working standalone has some merit because you can start with your raw photo and get the most capability out of that raw photo early in the workflow, early in your processing, to get the noise removed, and then take it into your other tools down the line. But you can work as a plugin, but I'm going to show you the standalone version. So let's take a look at an example. When you first launch NoNoise AI as a standalone, you get a pretty empty window prompting you to open some photos. Let me open up a photo here I know has a lot of noise in it. After a couple of moments, we can see that a default amount of noise reduction has been applied. That default is driven by preferences. Up in your preferences, you have in the general tab, low, medium, or high by default, an amount to add. And in this case, I have medium set, and we can immediately see how much better this photo is. Let's take a look at the information on this photo. This was captured at ISO 25,600. So zooming back out for just a moment, and then let me hit the backslash key. So we can see this is the original photo, and look how noisy it is, especially that door on the right-hand side. That is a wooden door. We expect to see a wood grain, and we see this very ruddy, splotchy doorway. After the noise reduction's been added, it's just so much better. The color tonation is even appropriate as well. So that's some kind of like magic there. But this is without having clicked a button. And it is pretty darn fast. I think the raw photo loaded up in a handful of seconds, and the noise reduction applications applied. And if I need to adjust things, and I'll go through the sliders in a minute, but I want to show you how responsive this is. Look at the luminance noise. I pull that down. I'm starting to work this. I can work visually, and I'm not paying attention to the slider anymore. I'm watching my photo in areas I know should be really, really smooth, like inside the tiles of this street number, like inside the uniform area, the 3 on the right-hand 3 there. I can dial that in by watching the photo. I'm not having to wait for refreshes or regenerations of previews or so forth. I can pan around the photo right away, and I can check to see other areas. How do they look? And I mean, this is just incredibly snappy. So the folks at ON1 have done a really, really good job with the performance of the noise reduction. But that's fundamentally the basics of the tool, right? Load up a photo, apply some noise reduction. When you're all done, you're working standalone, you hit the done, and you're prompted to save this out. And you can save out the file with the noise reduction applied in a variety of formats, including DNG, so a digital RAW file. So you can maintain a RAW file. So if you're using NoNoise AI as part of a larger workflow, you can still use a RAW file, save this out, and then continue working with a RAW file down the line. So that's how I choose to do things. Now I won't bother you with the save right now. So that is the fundamental workflow. Now let's go back in and take a look at the sliders individually. I'll explain what each one of them does. Let me use a different photo for this example. Another one taken at a high ISO, this one 10,000. But the sliders, let's talk about the sliders. Let's get all of these sliders down to 0 so we can talk about each one and what they do. Let's first talk about noise reduction. We've got luminance, enhanced detail, and color. And let me start at the bottom with color first. And the reason is normally this is pinned at 100%. Now color noise, that is like in the sky area or in the buildings, we see splotches of like green and magenta. It's almost like chromatic aberration spread everywhere. And without going into all the details of why that happens, I've got different videos about noise in general. As we push color all the way to the right, notice that coloration is gone now from the sky in particular. We can see on the left-hand side before the noise reduction, we've got these magentas, we've got these greens kind of hinting in there, and now on the right-hand side, we have a more uniform blue. Now it's still really grainy, but at least it's not discolored. The grain, that's our luminance noise. So now we take the luminance slider and start pushing that to the right. We're going to see that the sky starts to get much more smoothed out. Now, of course, everything is getting smoothed out, right? We look at the pillar in the middle here, like right here. Maybe this is a chimney or something, but no, it looks just like a pillar. We've got the color noise is there, the grain is there. Well, now that's gone, but it's also very smooth, right? There's a softness happening on the edges. Our third slider, enhanced detail, its job is to kind of strike the balance, try to bring back the detail around edges and just sharpness in things like if this were if this is like bark on the tree, we can see the ripples at the bottom of the palm tree. We can see the intonations and the different shadowing here underneath the eaves of the windows. Enhanced detail brings those things back for us. Now the sharpening sliders, this is really refinement of those details if we need some additional tweaks there. Normally, the amount slider is set to in the neighborhood of 20 or so, but as I push that really far, we can see that the additional sharpening here, and it does introduce what feels like noise. There's some grain coming back in there. So once again, noise is always a push and pull between maintaining detail and getting rid of grain. The detail slider, I'll push this all the way to the right. That is going to enhance micro details. And for this part, let me focus your attention on this bit of stucco right here. If I take detail down, it's a little softer. If I push it up higher, we can see even in the chairs up here as well, it's getting popped, right? None. See the lights here and those differences between dark and light. Contrast is getting pushed a little bit. Threshold will focus the sharpening to just the edges of things. So once again, I'll push this all the way to the right. And notice like this patterning and this this bit of detail in the facade of the building. A little smoother now because threshold is pushing things out to just edges, like maybe this line here and this line here, maybe a couple of the major differences in tone. Pull that back down and we see more of that detail spread through more edges, right? So this is finding our big edges, and this is backing things off and letting that detail be applied more or less everywhere. In general, at least the playing that I've done with the tool, I've tended to take the amount of sharpening that's been applied by default. I will tinker with detail a little bit depending on the photo. And threshold, I haven't really been playing with much at all. It seems that the defaults have been pretty fine for me. But that's what the different sliders are doing. So the noise reduction, once again, out of the chute, you usually get something very, very good looking. You can refine it with luminance and with enhanced details. So these first two sliders here. And if you need to, the amount of sharpening not enough for you, you need a little more detail, like if you're doing like wildlife and you got like feathers on a bird or something that really need to have that extra sharpening, maybe you inch it up. The same thing with the other sliders here. And then hit your done button, save that out, or if you're working in a plugin, it'll return you back to your host application, and you continue on with your editing. So how does ON1 NoNoise AI compare to other noise reduction software? Let's look at Lightroom, ON1 Photo RAW, and Topaz DeNoise AI and see how they compare. So we'll use the same photo here, the one we just finished working on. So here's the one in ON1's NoNoise AI. Right? We just worked through this photo, so you saw how that all went together. Let's take a look at Lightroom. So Lightroom it's pretty weak, right? Now, of course, there's differences in tonality in the sense of brightness and darkness and color rendition. Those are your differences in your RAW processors. But after fiddling quite a bit in the detail area, this is about where I was able to get the photo. And the color noise is gone and most of the grain is managed, but the details themselves are pretty lost. I mean, the building looks kind of soft and fuzzy as compared to the results from ON1's NoNoise AI, right? That's just, sure, the photo's brighter, but the details are crisper. Now, what about comparing to ON1 Photo RAW? Comparing ON1 against itself, the new NoNoise AI versus the noise reduction we have in Photo RAW. Well, here again is NoNoise AI, and now let's look at ON1 Photo RAW. So ON1 Photo RAW, the noise reductions in the details area in develop. This is actually the better of the two noise reduction tools. There is an effects filter, but it's an older engine. And again, things are okay here. This actually feels a little splotchier. The color noise removal is not as smooth. Right? There's still some patchiness here up in the sky. We can maybe counteract that with lowering detail. Of course, they're not having the problems with the buildings themselves, right? I did have different detail sliders, one for color, one for luminance. But even fiddling around with this for quite a bit, couldn't really dial in a crisp look on the buildings. You need to go turn to other tools in the ON1 suite to start adding in detail. Well, wouldn't it be great if we could start with a better version of the photo straight out of the chute? Well, that's what NoNoise AI is giving us. This is just a much cleaner result. Now, what about Topaz? Topaz has got DeNoise AI. It's a strong product. Let's have a look at that one. Once again, here is NoNoise AI. Now let's bring it over into Topaz, and we see a darker rendition of the photo. The luminance noise is very comparable. Details are pretty good, and things look on par. Where I see differences is like the details in the chairs and in the stucco there. Comparing that to ON1, this is a little crisper. These are close. These are both close. What I will point out that I found that I was struggling a little more with Topaz is performance. It took quite a bit of time to get to the result that I have here. And in particular, I mean, it's something as simple as, well, okay, this is looking good here. How does this look over here? And I wait, and I wait, and I get that there. And I did figure out to turn on my GPU, so that helped, right? I want to look over here now, and I wait, and okay, I've gotten my results. Well, I have severe noise. What about low light? Let me try low light. I'm previewing, I'm waiting, I'm loading. Okay, now I'm there. And so it's the results are good in Topaz, but I have to wait for them. Comparing that to no noise, it's like, all right, let me see. Over here, that looks pretty good. This is looking pretty good. This feels good. What if I have a little more detail? Let me try that. What about less luminance, more luminance? I'm getting almost real-time response from ON1. So that's a big plus, in my opinion, for the NoNoise AI. It's snappy, it's fast, and the results are very, very good. So those are the comparisons I'm seeing there. I think product-wise, NoNoise AI, it holds its own for sure, and it's got an edge in performance right now on Topaz, at least in the experimentation that I've done and I've been working with. A couple of other features to point out that are in NoNoise AI is retouching and masking. So far I've been showing you just the noise reduction tools. Well, there's more in this NoNoise AI utility. Let me return to this photo here, and I'll turn off the noise. We're done with that. There is retouching built right in, right? We have retouching tools. And so like these little spots here, I can just go deal with right away as part of my noise reduction. And so if there's any types of small blemishes you want to deal with, you've got access to retouching tools. And these are the same retouching tools that are available in ON1 Photo RAW. So they're very strong retouching tools. They're quite handy. One other feature we have is access to masks and layers. Sometimes we want to apply noise reduction to different parts of our photo at different strengths. A lot of times the shadows will have more noise than the highlights. And with layers and masking, you have the ability to apply different amounts of noise reduction to different parts of your photo. And let me just show you this example here. This bookshop got taken through through the glass, deep dark at night, and we've got some shadow areas. Like these areas here tend to have more noise than say these areas up in the above the shelf, right? This is noisy, so is this, and maybe I need a little bit more in the shadows. So one thing I could do is on the current photo, the base photo, let me just lower the amount of noise reduction I'm putting in there. Maybe just 40%. I'm going to give a global 40% noise reduction everywhere and hit apply on that. I have the layers panel. This layers panel, I can duplicate the image, and now I have adjustment sliders to add more noise reduction. So I can take this and add more noise reduction, and I'm watching my shadows now in this example. Well, I don't have to stop there. Now I say, okay, that's cool, that's great. It's starting to look a little bit odd in the books themselves. Well, I have masking tools, and I can mask my upper layer. I only want that to go to the shadows, and so how about I just do this? I make a luminosity mask, I invert it so that when I view this, the white part is where I'm applying the noise reduction, and I can start to tweak this around so that those deep shadows, those get more of the noise reduction. Remember, white reveals, black conceals when we're talking about masking, and so the whitish areas, they're getting more of this second level of noise reduction, and it's doing it in a kind of a natural way. But if you have other things to do, a simple paint job where I just want to brush away some of the noise reduction from one area, you can add some noise reduction to the first layer, add a second layer, add more noise reduction, and then back it off based on however you need to, based on the subjects that are in your images. So that is NoNoise AI from ON1. It's a new product released today. It's a standalone application or a plugin to Lightroom, Photoshop, Capture One, the other plugin ecosystems that ON1 supports. It's a distinct and separate application from ON1 Photo RAW. So if you're an ON1 Photo RAW user, this no noise technology is not going to magically appear in your current product. Reports are it will be incorporated into the next major release of ON1 Photo RAW. You got other questions about the product? drop them below. If you're thinking about picking it up, you want to get the free trial, there's a 14-day free trial. You can pick that up. Check the show notes. I've got links there. It'll jump you over to the page. Use my offer code if you decide to make the purchase. It'll save you a little bit of money. It always gives the channel a little bit of support. That's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed the video. My name's Scott Davenport, and until next time, have fun.